All right, welcome to this episode of Real Estate Chat with
Robert Eid.
and Johnder Perez. So, Robert, a couple of articles you've shared with me talking about recent market, everything from upsize buyers, housing starts, and garden suites. Very interesting stuff because it addresses a couple of different things about the sentiment of the market. We'll start with this one, and then we can hear your comments about it. And this is an article. According to Remax, upsizing buyers drove demand in Canada's housing market this spring. Now, this article was published July 19, a couple of days ago, but talks about the spring market and how the stability of the interest rates opened the floodgates for buyers, according to Christopher Alexander, who's president of Remax here in Canada. Now, what does that mean for the real estate market now? I know with Robert, he does a lot of forecasts, and with July nearing, we're going to anticipate what's going to happen as we round out this month. But what does it mean now, Robert, as far as the upsizers driving the market in the spring market, and how does that affect the overall dynamics of the real estate market?
Well, we said one time that there were several segments to the market. You got first-time buyers, you got trade-up buyers, you got last-time sellers, and you got investors, speculators. So what everybody was surprised at how hot all of a sudden Toronto and apparently Vancouver and a few other places got in like the middle of February, March, April, and till about the middle of May was like red hot. Everything was selling, multiple offers on it. Everyone was so surprised. We had a very couple of second, third, fourth quarter of last year quiet, and prices coming down, and more of a normal market, even though nobody likes to see prices coming down, and nobody likes to see interest rates going up. It was an adjustment that you sort of knew it was so good before that it sort of had to calm down. We come into this year, and one big smart aleck that looked a lot like me thought it was going to be like a glut of properties, and it was going to be price drops and need to do dramatic creative financing. It didn't happen because when as Mr. Alexander said, when the indication of pause was introduced in January, people said, well, maybe that's the end of it. He's going to pause. He's going to come down next. And so they said, I'm going to buy something now because the sellers are willing to talk turkey. And so they bought. Now he's analyzed it, saying one of the segments that trade up is the one who made the move. And maybe he's right. Everything else since then says to me, no, the trade up market did not move. They said, I'm a little bit uncertain about what mortgages are going to do. I've got an existing 2% mortgage for another 2 years. And if I go and get another mortgage, now I'm going to have to pay more, and it's going to blend in with like a 5 or 6% rate. So my payments are going to go up, and I'm going to have to get stress test on that. And maybe I don't want to do that. So there was a lot of inertia in the trade up market. However, if that's what his stats say, then that's what he says happened. Now, what's going to happen next? This is what everybody else wants to know, or what everybody wants to know is, are all the specs going to dump all the rental properties, get the tenant out of there finally, and dump them because they're above water now because of the boom that we had, boomlet that we had in the spring. And if you look at the vacant properties that are now coming on the market, it says, yes, they are. That if anybody's maybe going to make money, maybe not, they're going to hang on to it. But if they've already made a big profit, they bought it in 2010, they bought it in 2015, they're going to dump it because they see it's maxed out. It's not going anymore. So why put up with tenants? Why put up a landlord tenant? And we're going through another period of adjustment where interest rates continue to go up. Never mind what our Tiffany says, that they're going to continue to go up because this is the only hammer that they have. And they just keep on banging with that hammer, no matter how it wrecks the rest of the economy. If you want to calm down housing, increase the stress test, but reduce interest rates. So everybody who has to borrow money to buy a car, to finance their business, whatever, doesn't have to be strained. Come on.
So you're talking about interest rates going up, and in spite of that, we've talked about supply issues in our previous episodes of Real Estate Chat. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode. But one of the things that has come up as well, Robert, handling the supply part of the issue, is that housing starts have been very sparse or have been low. However, this article here that you've just recently shared with me talks about that the pace of the housing starts jumps 40% in June all of a sudden, and the monthly trend turns positive. And so this article, which we're going to link in the show description, shows that the housing starts trend has dropped, and now all of a sudden it has gone up in June. What's a housing start, Robert, and how does that affect the supply equation of the market? And are we in for favorable market conditions because we're seeing housing start to increase?
Okay, this is another one of the things that's cyclical, and also compared to what happened last year. Did starts go up by 30% compared to May and June? And if you look, put that screen back up there again, if you could, you'll see that the paragraph just above the graphic, actual total housing starts jumps by more than 7,000 units in May, largely due to an increase in multi-unit starts, but remains slightly below last year's level. So is that good or is that bad? Certainly not 40%. It's the same as it always is. It's a nonsense stat.
So nothing really solved with the increase in the housing start, because Robert, you were telling me on this off our video earlier when we were chatting about this initially, that housing starts are based on buyers who have already placed offers with new builders, and that differs in the US. Why? What is a housing start in the US defined as?
Well, a start is always a start. However, in Canada, nobody builds until it's pre-sold. So they open the site, they sell 70%. When they sell 70%, they can get their financing, and so they start to date, whether it's a subdivision or whether it's a high rise. In the United States, they build on spec. They say, I've got this 27 acres. I'm going to take this 4 acres. I'm going to put up 40 houses on it, and I'm going to put up 3 model homes, and I'm going to start digging the rest of the foundations, and I hope somebody comes along to buy them. And so they put the model homes up, and as people come along, then they start building and build. So those are the starts, and that's why they monitor the starts, because that's an indication of decisions that were just made. So now somebody starts, but especially for a high rise, it's a decision that was made 2 or 3 or 5 years ago. So it makes a great headline if you want to be saying the government is doing a great job of increasing housing supply, to say that there's 40% starts increase, but does it mean anything? No. It means
because it's already been
continue to get the subsidy, the print media subsidy from the government for supporting their agenda. And
because it's already been sold. Like this increase reflects product that's already been sold, that buyers have already bought. So essentially it didn't increase the supply. It just meant that buyers had already bought. They're increasing the housing start to reflect the fact that it's sold. And so we're back at square one, right? So what's another solution? Maybe it's garden suites. So here's another article that Robert shared with me, and this one is entitled "Garden Suites in Toronto Get Slow Uptake with None Completed 1 year after the program launched." Now, it doesn't mean that none were started. In fact, they had a couple. Let me see where it got to that point, that there were a certain number of applications. So city has received 152 building permit applications for garden suites. 32 of those applications have been granted. 27 suites are under construction 1 year later. 0 have been completed. So 27 will hit the market, will hit the available inventory perhaps for renters. But this article talks about the extensive requirements, like you've got to get architectural drawings done, you've got to get the structural stuff done, you've got to get building permits, then you've got to get somebody to actually build the thing, right? And then they've got to inspect that and make sure it's okay. And something along the lines of, I think it's 35% of the city can actually, where is that part of it? You get to see, there it is. 35% of the area of the city that was previously only zoned for single detached can have garden suites. So a third of the city, imagine a third of Toronto having these garden suites that look like this. Actually, this is from Saskatchewan, Saskatoon.
Well, that's laneway suite.
This is a laneway. Well, yeah, garden suite, laneway suites are available in Toronto. This particular one is a garden suite, but Robert, the slow uptake of this to introduce what the city hoped to be more housing, and because garden suites cannot be sold as separate title, these are intended to be, rental units. Or, if you've got a family, you've got kids, you don't want them in your house, you want to shove them into the garden suite. I guess that's another use for them. But 27 are under construction. 1/3 of the city can be converted to garden suites. So why is there such a slow uptake to this, you think? And is this really going to solve any problems?
Well, let's start at the end. Is it going to solve any problems? No. Is it a good idea? Sure. They used to be called granny flats because instead of putting your mother into $7,000 a month institution, you can create a 400 square foot little apartment out in the backyard, run sewer to it, run your own water to it, and it's in your own backyard. Now they're saying like it's a variation on this miracle middle nonsense that they keep on talking about. This is the solution. Intensification is what the middle is. Building in the laneway, you got to have a laneway in order to have a laneway housing, and they don't let you do them everywhere. Granny flats, it's like somebody decided that the neighbor over your back fence is going to have a tenant in there, or is going to have an Airbnb separate unit in your backyard across the fence, making noise all the time. Or it could be just somebody's granny. We don't know. But if not in my backyard has a very good reason for being afraid, is because I bought this house with the idea that this was the zoning. Now you're going to let all these people do it. So you have to get it approved. Now they've said you can put 3 units on every single building lot. It's going to change the demographics. It's going to change the makeup of the neighborhoods that are thought of now to be single family and thought of to be calm, quiet, and peaceful and stable. So you got to be careful of what you mess around with. There's unintended consequences to taking 35% of the city, which is probably not the lousiest part, but it's probably the best part with the biggest lots that have the area of the backyard that's able to accommodate this new construction. Anyway, it's a great idea, but it's not a panacea. Nothing is a panacea. What you have to do is stop asking people to come to a city that has nowhere to live. You have to build new satellite cities out past north and east, north and west, and create a whole new satellite city out there in the boonies.
Well, it's a capacity, right? So immigration numbers, as they increase, the government has to provide solutions, not just bring people in without providing a place for them to be in. And
so they should reverse their policy then. They should stop everything that they have in the works and give no more free citizenship to people who are not worthy of citizenship, and give no more dual citizenship to people who are just taking advantage of the free money that's given away to everybody comes in the ground. 100%, 180-degree turn. Yes, you're right.
or build and grow outside of the city. Build and grow outside of the city where there is room for growth. I mean, that's another aspect of it. Or you know what? Introduce more high density if that's where you want to go. But be interesting to see, and then this is something that we'll pull up, is like where in the city can garden suites. But could you imagine, Robert, the entire street filled with garden suites, and what kind of congestion?
It's like basement apartment. If the whole street has basement apartment, like you go to Bayview Village, it was a nice subdivision in Richmond Hill, 70-foot frontages, they all have basement apartments in there because the new people that have moved in don't have the same thought about community that the original intended buyers did. So they put in, now you got too many cars, you got too many people at the school. Where did you come from? It's just like,
so they got to do a better plan for this. And if density is planned, then you've got to, I mean, as homeowners in the places that will be affected by this, and you've got to obviously think about your home value and what you've invested in. I mean,
when you want to move, and when you want to move,
it's going to make a difference.
Or it impacts. Yes.
Not only that, but it's also the cost of building these. So if you're in one of these and you see this as an opportunity, because let's say you do love your community and where you want to be in, and you don't mind the density, you don't mind somebody walking by your front window, going into their garden suite. It's also the cost of this. Doing this today with the interest rates today, and if you're borrowing a line of credit to build this today, it's going to be cost prohibitive. So it'll be interesting to see where this program goes, but a whopping 27 units once they finish construction will be introduced, and a further couple dozen more will be introduced into this. Hope you like this episode of Real Estate Chat. We didn't want to put a damper on your real estating, but if you like what you've heard, put into the comments what you do like about our discussion. If there's certain things that kind of agitate you as far as real estate market is concerned, talk about those as well, because you never know. Maybe the next episode will feature your comments. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Real Estate Chat. Bye for now. We'll see you at the garden suite.
Okay. Bye-bye.